Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Pestrogen podcast with Jenny and Jerusha.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pestrogen with Jenny and Jerusha. I'm Jerusha. Today we're going to be talking about our origin stories, how we got into pest control, and we did a little bit of market research because I'm asked constantly, probably multiple times a day, how in the world I got into pest control. And I legitimately thought that it was just because I was a woman in the industry. So we did a little bit of an experiment to see if men are asked that question as well. So we're going to discuss that also and talk about our findings in a little bit here. But welcome also my co-host, Jenny. How was your week, Jenny?
It was good. Man, the week felt like it lasted forever.
It was a long one.
Very, very long week.
Yeah.
My daughter had her very first wrestling tournament today.
How'd she do?
She was super bummed because she lost like right away. And I'm like, girl, it's your first one. And even the coach came over and was like, hey, you did really good. Like, you've only been to like 6 practices in your life. Like, so, yeah.
And didn't you say they moved her to boys too?
Yeah. Yep.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Exactly. So, we have fun with that. She was real bummed. But my week in a whole, I think the most exciting thing that happened was I was at a restaurant doing a service, and I was in the back prep room, and I'm just, working around. And then I hear like commotion over in the corner, and I hear something like, that's a man's job. And like, I kind of like look up like, you talking to me? Like, and then, but nobody's looking at me or talking to me. So then I just go back. I'm like reaching for a tin cat trap I have in the corner. And then all of a sudden I just start hearing screaming. And it's like, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do. Blah, 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 blah. And I look up, and it's a young man and a young woman, and they're arguing. And I guess he told her to do something, and she said it was a man's job. And so then he's like, just go back to doing nothing like you always do. And so then it like got way more heated, and I'm just like, whoa, I need to get out of here.
Yeah, that's fighting words.
Yeah, but here I am, the pest control lady over in the corner. I wish.
Yeah, listening to.
I wish I would have heard what he asked her to do. I have no idea.
Yeah, I wonder.
I don't know if it was like.
Was it like taking out the trash?
Yeah. That's so.
Because that's a me thing. I'm constantly like, this is a men's job. Like, pump my own gas? No, that is a man's job.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
And then I do it myself anyway. But that's totally something I would say. No, that's a man's job.
You got this. Yeah. So that was funny. And
oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I felt bad for the manager because she was like, comes bursting from the front, like, what's going on?
Crazy.
So, yeah, that was.
And then they just like stopped and went back to work, or what happened?
She split them up. She pulled the lady to the front and had her do something. But from the back, I could still hear her going off.
Wow.
He thinks he can this and that and screw this job. we see some fun things.
We do. I saw something super fun. I was also doing pest control at a restaurant, and I walked in, and there was a guy. It was a fast food restaurant, so he was at the front counter waiting for his order. He'd already placed his order, but was waiting there, and he had like a parrot on his shoulder. Not a big one, but a parrot on his shoulder. And he was like, just acting like that was perfectly normal. And so I was kind of in the back corner of the or not in the back, but like I was in the back, but still like right in the doorway where I could see. I was watching him. I was watching the parrot.
Yeah.
And he was like, he let the cashier like pet it and then like had it like move to her finger. And I can't remember what he said her name was, like Emily or something. And then the cashier like walked away. And so I was still watching it because I kind of wanted to be like, can I pet the bird too? Like I want to hold the parrot. But I didn't, I thought that would be weird. And so I was just kind of keeping an eye on him, and the cashier walked away. And he was just like, you know, waiting for his food. And he turned around. And when he turned around, the bird just shit all over the place. And it just dropped on the ground. And there was no employees to see it. And he just acted like nothing. I don't know if he noticed. I don't know if he knew. But he just acted like nothing happened.
Right.
And it just like dropped this massive pile of shit all over the floor, like right in front of where you go up and place your order. But I think I was the only person to see that. So he got his food and he left with his bird. And I was talking to the manager and I was like, that gentleman with the bird, like it just shit all over your floor up there. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll like get somebody to clean it up. I was like, yeah, there's literally like bird diarrhea all over your entryway.
That's great.
Maybe handle that. And the dude just like, he just walked away, like probably stepped in it on his way out, just totally nonchalant. Him and his bird getting a burger and fries.
That's great. I don't know how many accounts I have that say like no pets or whatever on the front, and it makes me think like, what happened to make, you know, it's probably one of those situations.
A bird shit on the floor.
Yeah, like, you know what? This is it. We're drawing the line. No pets. And
we're done.
We're done. We ain't doing this. I get that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't allow it either.
Yeah.
I used to do a pet store, and multiple times I saw a guy in there with a big cockatiel on his shoulder, and he would bring it there and they would just watch the fish, and he would just, it was like a field trip. They would just hang out, watch the fish swim, and then he'd leave and I'd see him walking down the road, walking home afterwards. It was actually very wholesome.
I was going to say, that's adorable. Oh.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Too cute.
Anyway,
yes,
I get off track sometimes. The things we see in this job,
absolutely.
I could go on and on.
It's wild, but yeah.
Speaking of that, though, what is your origin? Like, how did you get into pest control in the first place? Like this, there's not a lot of people that are like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to be a pest control technite.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So
how did you find your way here?
I was actually in manufacturing. I was at a factory, and COVID happened, and one of our plants in Georgia actually closed, and they sent all their people up to us, and we had, you know, we were booming, and then COVID happened, and rumors that the plant was going to close started going around, and I was a job setter for a certain process, and I really liked it, but then it was announced official, like, hey, we're going to end up closing over a certain amount of time, blah, 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 which the people that had been there like a super long time, it was worth it for them to stay until the doors closed because they were going to get like a severance type payout or whatever. But I had only been there 2-3 years, so I wasn't going to get jack. So it was time for me to start looking around, and I came across one, and I remember my husband being like, there's no way. Nope. Because before we got married, we had a roommate, and he sucked too because he never paid rent or anything. Well, he had bed bugs and didn't tell us, and then he moved out, and then we took his room.
No.
And yeah, so we paid for our wedding straight out by ourselves. Our family did not help with anything. So 2 weeks before our wedding, we realized our entire room was pretty much swimming in bed bugs. And yeah, so it was either pay for pest control or cancel our honeymoon. So we just threw everything out and slept on the floor until our wedding. So, which
Oh, that's such a bummer.
I think I was 21 and he was 23. So we were just like, screw it, we'll rebuild. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I told my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, look, this comes with a company vehicle. Like, I just bought a brand new car and I'll like not even have to put miles on it. Like, so I got in there, and it's what in the Tales from the Crawl Space world you would call a Donnie and Marie type company.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that with them for a year, and that was like my beginning, and it was all residential, a lot of mosquito treatments and things like that. So that was my origin, and based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. So,
Gotcha.
but what got you into it?
It was very unexpected. So my brother has been in pest control for like, I don't know, probably like 20 years by now. And I think he got into pest control around the same time that I went to beauty school. And so I went to beauty school. I became a hairstylist, and I did hair and makeup and nails for 12 years. Super duper girly, full face of makeup every day, flat ironed my hair every day. I was known for, I had a mohawk that I dyed crazy colors every month. So I became known for, like, customers would be like, oh, go grab her. I got to see what her hair looks like this month. So my brother that whole time was like constantly telling me that I should get into pest control. And I was like, ew, gross. I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of mice. I would run the other way. But he never really dropped it. Like the whole time that I was doing hair, he was telling me I should get into pest control. And then I got to a point where I'm a single mom, and I just was so busy between children and the salon that I had to figure out something, so that I could get my kids to appointments, be involved in their school. And so at that point, I started working overnight at a gas station and then doing hair during the day. And between the two, I was working every day of the week. Or if I wasn't working, I was recovering from working overnight, or like there were times where I would work all day at the salon and then, take a nap and then go and work all night at the gas station, or vice versa, work all night at the gas station and then have to go cut hair without having slept. And so at one point, it was like I saw my brother and his family on, I think it was Christmas. And then I didn't see them again until 4th of July because all I did was work. So I think I saw an ad for his pest control company that he was working for, but it was hiring in my area. I lived like an hour away from him. So it was hiring for a route in my little town that I lived in. And so I was like, maybe it is time, because you get a vehicle. You don't have to put any mileage on your own vehicle. You get a gas card. They cover all of your gas. So I was like, maybe it's time. And he had always told me, it's going to be mostly Monday through Friday. You're not going to have to work a lot of late nights. You can have a little bit more flexibility. So I finally did. I decided I would take the interview and kind of see what happened. So I went, and actually the day of my interview, I had worked overnight at the gas station. So kind of same deal. I went to my interview without having slept at all, worked overnight, went home, got the kids to school, got dressed, went to the interview, and killed it. But I still was kind of on the fence and still didn't really know, if I could transition from being a hairstylist to being a pest control technician. So I had interviewed with who would have been my supervisor, and then I think it was like my manager. And the manager called me and was like, you interviewed really well. I really want to offer you the job, but I think you're a little bit too much of a girly girl. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I have no choice but to be the best technician ever. And I told him, like, yeah, I'm a girly girl, but I'm a badass too. And like, if I decide that I want to be really great at this, I will be. And so I took the job because I had to prove him wrong and had to be like a really great technician. So I don't know that I still was kind of, I probably would have talked myself out of it, I think. But shout out to Joe Pucktel for giving me a chip on my shoulder that I needed to be good at the job. Cause yeah, I started right after that and now it's been 5.5 years and I love it. And I will say that was kind of a dick comment, but it motivated me and I would go work for him again. He was a great boss.
That's awesome.
But, yeah, I don't know that I would have signed on quite so eagerly had he not said, you're kind of a girly girl. Yeah. I don't know if you can do it. Cause then I was like, well, fuck, now I have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's so cool.
So here I am.
That's awesome. Oh,
yeah.
That's cute. I love it. We had a decent amount of ladies give us stories and stuff of how they got into it too. And then a lot of guys too, but we were really keen on hearing how the ladies got into it. Kind of like with what you said with the how many times in one day we hear, so how'd you get into this, because you're a girl.
Yeah, because you just don't. I feel like, and I think a lot of the guys, it was kind of like, well, yeah, I needed a job and I found something.
Yep.
But the girls, there's a lot of like interesting avenues that kind of let us into the field because it's definitely not something that, and like I saw a lot of people saying like, yeah, my branch doesn't have any women or I've never been able to hire a woman, whatever. So
yes,
it is.
Yeah, I actually went to an interview that I didn't take the position because it was mentioned so many times that the guys or we don't have any women blah. And I was just like, that was just giving me major red flags of, I don't know about this. Like, I feel like it's going to be a problem at this point.
Yeah, they talk about it that much.
Yeah, but like my current branch manager like never even mentioned the fact that I'm a girl or anything, because why does it matter?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah,
I guess same with my current. I think my first 3 definitely it came up. But I think my current one at this point, like my experience speaks for itself at this point. And so, yeah, my current boss, I don't remember it ever. It was just like, hey, you live in the area that I need a really good tech and you've got a good background. And
yep,
I don't think it's ever actually come up.
Right.
At my current place. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, when I worked at the smaller family one, it definitely was like, oh yeah, we had a girl once and she was great and she did this and she that. And like, they were wonderful. They didn't, it was actually a father-daughter duo. So that helped, I think. Cool. But like, yeah, it was definitely a big, and then I was the only female technician. Cause the one they had previously had left. But I do remember it coming up a fair bit in my interview and then once I worked there too.
Right. And sometimes you can just feel the energy behind it and how it's mentioned matters.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had I guess now that I think about it, I had one person at my branch question, but it was another technician. And he said it to my face. He was like, I have a really big route. I think I have the biggest commercial route in our branch. And I have 2 prisons and the state mental hospital that has like prison-like settings. And the 2 prisons are men's prisons. And a technician did say like, yeah, I was really surprised they hired a girl for this route because they're going to send you into the prisons. I'm like, and
Right.
and what?
Right.
And I'll fucking kill everything. Like, yeah, fuck off.
Right. That's great.
So that, I guess it did come up that time, but that was just him being an idiot and whatever.
Yeah.
I go to the prisons all the time, and the only things that have died are the roaches.
That's so cool. I love that. That's so cool. Did we want to share
Should
some
we
of
tell
the
some stories?
Yeah, share some of the ladies'
Yes.
entries. I have, and I'm assuming since they gave them that they're okay with us sharing their name on it. So
I didn't ask a single person for
I'll do a first name. How about that? I'll do a first.
That sounds good. Yeah, I didn't ask anybody.
Sherry said she had been a hotel manager and just relocated to a new city, and the regional manager was boarding his horse at the farm I was living on, and he asked me to interview with him. They had a plan for bedbug scent detection canine in my area, and he knew I could work with animals. I was hired that day, and the rest is history. That was 10 years ago. I love my job. That is cool.
That's really cool. I
That's
like
so
that a lot.
cool.
I think a lot of it, what I did notice about a lot of the women's stories was working in an industry that's close to pest control, like
Right.
a warehouse that got pest control, working with animals already, working something that's adjacent to us. It seemed like
Yes. Yeah.
it wasn't a lot of just like, well, I answered a want ad and here I am 25 years later. It was a lot of
Right.
like, they were somehow kind of involved in the industry or around it somewhat.
Right.
So I have one that I liked, but I took a screenshot and the screenshot cut off the person's name.
Oh.
So I apologize if this is your story. I really liked it and I'm a jerk and cut off your name and I can't give you credit. But it says, so we had asked like how often people are asked how they got into the industry while they're on the job. So she said that she does get asked a fair amount, especially on new accounts. And I found that to be very common amongst women and men.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times at the first stop or the first service, we're asked how we got into this originally. Okay, so then she says, originally I was handling detection dogs, explosives and bedbug detection were my specialties. I just think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
How cool would that have been to have a job? In an attempt to be the best at my job as I could, I learned as much about bedbugs as I possibly could. I loved and was fascinated by them. The bugs that the pros couldn't kill, at least not easily. It became a challenge of helping clients prove that the bedbugs weren't gone, even though the techs would swear they were. Most were big corps and techs who just wanted a paycheck. I don't do well being called a liar, so I became great at finding bedbugs in any scenario. While I also worked for a lot of pest control companies too. I got offered jobs by 4 different companies, 2 corporate companies and 2 small businesses. But one in particular took an interest. I declined and they continued to ask. At one point, I got my license through them and still didn't end up being a tech, but they continued to ask. They asked for years. I saw the company switch ownership and they were still asking. Finally, I made the leap and I love it. I retired my dogs and now I run my own route. They are a phenomenal company to work for. I seriously couldn't ask for anything better. I just think that's so cool. Like, that must have been, even just doing the dog detection stuff, how exciting of a career. And then it's just kind of a natural transition into pest control.
Yeah, absolutely. That is super cool.
And bedbugs are like, I don't love walking into a bedbug infested unit, but that is one of my favorite things to kill because it's just so much relief to the person dealing with them that I feel like that's one of the major times that we really can affect somebody's life in a positive way.
Yes.
So I get why that was kind of her thing, her concentration.
Right. Absolutely. You can literally rest assured after that. After a bed bug, you know.
Yeah, sleep for the first time in
Right.
6 years.
Absolutely.
I have one right now that I just did. I think I did 3 stops. It's an apartment complex. And I probably could have left it at just 2, but it was so bad and it went untreated for so long that I did 3 treatments, and I just finished up the 3rd treatment. I didn't see anything live, and they were like, "Oh my God, like I'm going to start sleeping in my bed again because the lady has been sleeping on the couch and her husband has cancer and then got COVID and just, yeah, and dealing with a pretty gnarly bed bug infestation. And so I just got them cleared and free of bed bugs, and like, I thought she was going to cry just to finally be rid of them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like she's got enough to worry about.
Yeah. Who needs to also worry about getting eaten alive while you're trying to sleep?
Right. No.
Miserable.
Yes. I really liked Holly's. She said she's 2nd generation here. My parents started back in 1981. Never thought I'd be a tech or involved, but stepped in to save the family business 7 years ago, and I love it. Sounds pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Pretty cute. Yeah. Adorbs.
Jennifer said she gets asked the question a lot, and she got divorced and became a single mom, and cleaning houses at the time wasn't cutting it enough to support myself, 3 kids, and my bills, so I applied with a local company that had an ad on Indeed, and here I am rocking it and living the dream. There was a couple like that too. I know there was another one that let me try to find it. There's a bunch. There's a lot of single moms I saw. Cheryl said, I hear this at least once a day. I've been in the industry a couple of years now. I get comments all the time where people are shocked to see a woman show up. I know she's a single mom as well. And then I saw one too where, here it is. I was ready to start working full time again. I'd been a stay-at-home mom with my 2 kids for 7 years, and the youngest was old enough to be in school, and my husband was working from home most days. There was a job listing for the corporate office, which was only 15 minutes from my house. I applied, started working in our internal compliance department, and learned what I could with the best attitude I could find. Within 6 months, the lady who was licensing gave notice. The VP asked me to take it on, and like I do with everything, I gave it my all. She kind of goes on. That one gets a little bit longer. She kind of goes on. She's taken every certification under the sun and is killing it these days. But I did think that was kind of interesting with women in the industry, how much it was like, yeah, it works with my kid's schedule, or I became a single mom and needed to make a little bit more money. I think I don't know, women are fucking amazing and we can do anything. So it's cool to see that when we get into a tight spot, this has been a good industry to kind of transition into to help ourselves get out of that tight spot.
Yes, absolutely. And my very first trainer with my very first company was a woman. And
cool.
Due to the toxic culture of that place, we don't talk anymore. But she was a single mom. That company was not good at working with single moms. Like, I felt really bad for her, where
Sad.
they would almost pressure her or add on stops to where she couldn't get off in time to get her kids and just things like that. Yeah. So I remember thinking when I first got into the industry, like, oh man, like if I got to hand it to single moms because this is not. But then when I moved on to different companies, I realized that the right employer will work with you. And yeah, so I think that's
and you can be flexible.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't know, like tomorrow I have to cut out for a little bit to take my son to an appointment. And so I'm going to just get up bright and early. I mean, I start at like 6 a.m. every day, so I'll get a good half a day in. And then I'll just go pick him up, get him to his appointment, bring him back to school, and then go back to work. It'll make for a longer day for me, but, for the most part, especially being commercial, it's pretty easy. I'll work in the morning and get all my restaurants that have to be done early. And then I'll just save I've got a bunch of anytime stuff that, I can do a little bit later after his appointment. So it's not ideal, but I feel like when I was doing hair, it would have been 10 times harder
Yeah.
to try to do those things because, you know, people schedule their hair appointments 6 weeks in advance. So before I even know that I need a day off, I'm already fully booked. And then I have to figure out where to put 12 people.
Right.
Whereas in this industry, it's like, I'll do it the next day. You know,
Yeah.
if I can't get to them Monday, I'll get to them Tuesday or, you
Yep.
know, Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
Or work a Saturday.
Yep. I
So
kick that can. That's what I always say to myself. I'm gonna kick the can down the road.
yeah.
So I can do this thing I need to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. The appointments will always be there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's cool. Who else we got here? Rachel. We didn't do Rachel yet. She said that she started out as a quality control manager, was approached by a pest control company to develop their program to be more compliant with food safety standards. Although I was exposed to IPM for 17 years, when I got involved with this company, she absolutely fell in love with pest control. So ultimately, she made the decision years ago to completely change careers, and now I am a nuisance wildlife officer and commercial applicator. So that is awesome.
It is awesome.
Yes.
Do you remember your first account? Kind of off topic, but do you remember like when you first got out of in the field? What was the first thing?
The they put me in this like really really rich gated community for like 3 days back to back. So I had to like figure out how to get into that was like one of my first things out on my own was like, oh my gosh, how do you get into this place? And then my first realizing that the previous because with this employer you didn't like have your own route. It was split up amongst a bunch of people. So like if the last person didn't leave good notes, you would have to figure out how to get in there. But yeah, my first like 3 days I spent in a mansion city gated community. So
with no like guidance as
Nope.
to
Yeah,
just climb the fence.
Yeah, I had
You'll be fine.
Yep. And then that one was like a high security too. So they're like, when you get to the gate, they're like, make you give them your ID and all kinds of stuff. So it was like real fancy gated community. Like,
yeah.
When I got back to the branch the next week and was complaining about it, people are like, oh yeah, the mayor lives in there or whatever. So yeah.
Would have been nice to know ahead of time, guys.
Yeah,
thanks.
you could have put in the notes, go to this street and
That's
go.
what the notes are for.
Right, because the address just sent you to like a random spot around. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that so much.
Yep.
My first one, it was my first one, period. Like, so when I got the job, they were changing how they did training. And I think because I was a girl, they pushed it faster. So like before I started, they would just put you into training you had 3 weeks of training in the classroom. And then they were trying to make the transition to like go out in the field a little bit, then come back to training. Cause so many people would do classroom training. And then when they got in the field would be like, oh no, can't do it. So then they've wasted all that time and energy training somebody.
Right.
So I was the first one that went into the field first. And I went out with my supervisor and I had this was when I was still in Minnesota. I had a flour Miller Milling. And the building was about 125 years old, I want to say, and just fully infested with mice. And there was really nothing we could do because it was a food plant. We couldn't really poison the crap out of them. And then the building was just so old and crumbling that we couldn't keep them out. So we just had to catch them. And it was like I think it had 6 levels. And you'd go up one side, come back down, go across, go up that side, come back down. I think I was there for like 5 or 6 hours every single Monday. So it was my very first account with my supervisor. And then whenever I got out into the field by myself, it was my first account. But the first time I went, we were checking traps, and he had shown me how to check a trap, right? But he hadn't shown me what to do if there was something in a trap. He just showed me how to open it, how to clean it, and how to put it back in place, and that's all I knew. And we didn't use glue boards in every trap.
Yeah.
So we did a few together, and then he was like, all right, like we'll piggyback, you know, you do one, I'll do the next one, whatever. And so I get to a trap on my own, and I open my first trap, and there's a little baby mouse in there, and it's not moving, it's not doing anything. And so I just set the trap down open, and I'm like, what do I do if there's something in it? And he comes over and he goes, you close it because it's fucking alive and it's going to get out and it's going to run. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought it was dead. It wasn't moving. And he's like, no, it's alive. It's going to run. And then you got to step on it. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
And then at the end of the week, I think at the end of that day, he was like, so you coming back tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. Why? And he's like, I mean, after that first one, I don't know. Maybe you want to go back to the hair salon.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I got this. And I did. I figured it out. But yeah, that was my first. I almost let a live mouse run loose in the food plant because I didn't realize it was alive.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that if it got out, we'd be totally fucked and have to chase it and kill it. And yeah it was
do a nasty,
it was exciting.
Curb stomp.
Exciting times.
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't have much faith in me after that.
That's great. I love that. Oh goodness.
Let's see. Heather had one that I liked too. She said she does get asked by at least one person every single day how she got into pest control. She said, obviously people find it strange when you're a woman in the profession, even though we should really be past that by now. Exactly, Heather. Thank you. Yep. I got into pest control because a friend of mine worked for a company on the administrative side and sought me out because I already had a commercial applicator's license from doing, CAT 24? I don't know. Work. Turf, grass, and ornamental. The rest is history. See, I feel like a lot of women get into it by being somewhere around the industry.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yes.
But we really should be, she's right, like we should be way past, well, you're a girl, you can't do this job. But I still have to convince people that I know what I'm talking about when I show up to an account and they're like, well, you're a lot prettier than the last technician. Yeah, I'm a lot fucking smarter, too. I've seen his work.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, that's, I actually recently had a discussion with my branch manager where, like, I was like, hey, you know, sometimes, like, I have anxiety and I overthink things. So, like, if one of my accounts called in and said something, you guys would tell me, right? Like, I would... because I take a lot of pride in how I stand. Like if they think that they'd complain about you or something? Either complain or just anything. I was like, I would really want to know, you know, so that I can, I take pride in building that connection with the client or whatever. And he goes, yeah, of course. Absolutely. I would always tell you everything. And then he goes, well, maybe not everything. And I was like, what? And he goes, like, if somebody were to, like, just call in and be a complete asshole about you being a woman, he's like, I would probably fire them as a client and just not tell you about it. And
that's respectable.
I was like,
yeah,
fair, okay. And he went on to tell me some stories where he had people call in and be racist towards his client and towards his technicians, and he was just like immediately like, nah. We ain't doing that. Yeah. And he was like, I didn't tell that technician that. He's like, I don't want them to feel that. Yeah, they don't need to know. Right. That them existing is a problem. You know? So I was like, okay. Just get rid of, the problem is the customer. Get rid of that customer. Yeah. I was like, so that's fair. Gross. Okay, cool. You know.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had it after the fact. But I know there's been a couple, like, when they were talking to admin, and admin would say, well, she will be there. And they'd be like, oh my God, I don't think a woman can do it, blah, blah, blah. Like, but I don't know that I've ever gotten calls after. Maybe they're not telling me.
Yeah, maybe.
But I definitely know I've had to win a couple customers, even women. I had a female customer once that was like, I don't think a girl can do the job. And then I went out there and she's like, you're the only one I want to do the job. And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yep.
You're goddamn right.
I took over this route from my now service manager. Like, I got hired in, I trained with him, and then now he's service manager and I have his route. There was so many, like, office ladies that I swear he was schmoozing or something, because they just hated me for the longest. Yes. And I'm just like, I would make comments to my service manager, like, you know, you shaking that tush or something, because I don't know why these ladies hate me. But
because he was walking in and flirting with every single one of them.
Like, dang. But now a year later, I'll tease them and be like, they don't even remember you now.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but I think that's a legit thing too. Like, some people prefer just the dude, and so they'll hold it against us. But then also, I think a lot of times people are more comfortable when we show up. Yeah. Like, I had one where I had to do a callback for somebody else, a residential technician. These people called in because, like, 2 days after his roach treatment, they still were seeing roaches. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's only been 2 days. Call me in 2 weeks, you know?
Right.
But I went back out just to, like, spot treat, make them happy. And it was like the 18-year-old daughter that was home to let me in, and I chatted with her. She called her mom to chat with me so that I could kind of figure out what was going on, exactly what they wanted from me. And then as she was walking away, I kind of overheard them talking about how somebody was on their way to, like, be there with the girl, and the mom was like, oh, I guess they don't have to come over because you're probably safe because a girl showed up. So, like, I think some of it, like, in some circumstances when a woman shows up, like, people are just, especially letting somebody into your home. Like, I'd be way more comfortable if the plumber that was coming to fix my stuff was a woman than just being alone with some man. Not that, you know, they're not all bad, but right. Like, I think a lot of women, especially if they're, like, home with the kids, whatever, I think when we walk in are like, yes, thank you. Yep. It's just a little bit more trustworthy when we walk through the door.
Yeah, I get that with some of my apartments. And I had one where she was upset that she had to stay. She felt like she needed to stay because it was going to be a guy, but she had somewhere she needed to be. And she opened the door and she was holding, like, a 1-year-old on her hip. And she goes, no way. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, you're a girl. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I'm going to leave my keys. Just do your thing. I got this thing. Oh my God, I'm just so happy because, and I'm just like, cute. I'm like, how did I get with, like, being alone with a man or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'm not going to, like, ransack your house.
I'm about to steal all your shit.
What? But okay. You know, that's fine.
Yeah. Not every girl is trustworthy, but yeah, I've heard stories of, like, specifically pest control people, like a pest control guy got caught stealing underwear from a lady in her apartment. Like, he went upstairs and when he came back down, like, I think she, like, saw them in his pockets or something. And I swear I've heard that story more than once, like, in the news, that crazy. Like, and specifically pest control. Like, what the fuck?
Why? Why would that's ridiculous. People are crazy.
One thing I've stopped asking about men is why?
Oh my God. Like, throw your whole career away over
just to be a weirdo.
Some stinky panties for
bro. And I think he got, if I remember correctly, I think there were, like, charges filed even.
Yeah. Fair.
Pretty sure he came from the company that we work for too.
Oh, come on, bruh.
Because I heard about it when I worked at a competing company and they were like, oh, don't be like our current company.
Right. We're already redheaded stepchilds out here. bro.
Literally.
Like you ain't gotta make it worse on us.
You had to make it, yeah, exactly. You had to give us an even worse name.
Not fair.
Jerk.
Yep. Good times.
So yeah, I think being a woman, like, it definitely works against us sometimes. We have to prove ourselves a little bit more to some people. But then there's also that, like, trust level with some of our customers where we walk in the door and they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna find like, we're more detail oriented, I think. So there's little things here and there that I think that we find
Yes.
that men don't always.
Right.
So I think it actually works in our favor, even though it's strange to see us. We're very rare in the industry still.
Mm-hmm.
I think women belong in this industry and do an excellent job in this industry.
Absolutely. Yep.
Personally.
Yep.
Should we read some of the guys' messages? How guys got into it?
Yes.
I only have one of those stories. I think you have more of those, but I'll read what my cheese dad Jack sent. He said, I was tired of construction inspection and answered a want ad that didn't specify what the industry was, just stated that construction experience was preferred. It was for a termite technician position. You need to understand how home foundations are built to know how to properly treat, and the rest is history.
Nice.
That's awesome,
yes.
Jack.
That is awesome.
I do feel like I was lacking in that department when I started, because I did hair for 12 years and was the girliest of girls. Like, I had to be taught a lot of stuff about how a house is put together and what I still will be like, you know, that thing at the tippy top of your roof? That's messed up. You should fix that.
I get that. I remember.
So yeah, that construction background for sure.
Yes.
I can see how that would help in our industry a ton.
Right. I remember having to learn how to use a hand drill.
I was going to say, yep, I didn't even know how to use a drill. And now I can hang an ILT like a fucking champ.
Exactly. Like, people talk about those dads in the garage, like, it's obvious you didn't have a dad that worked on cars or whatever, but now...
Yeah, you didn't have to hold the flashlight.
Yeah, now my kids are going to be like, well, you know, you didn't have a mom that was...
Yeah.
So...
My service manager always jokes. My branch manager used to always say that my service manager was grandpaing me. And then people call him uncle in his name. I don't want to say any names. Right. But now I tell him, I think he said something about like treating me like his daughter. So now I'll be like, where is my dad right? Like when I had to change that tire the other day, I couldn't get a hold of him. And I called my branch manager and I was like, where's my dad? 'Cause he would just come here and change this tire for me. But yeah, I'll call him and be like, how do I reverse the drill?
Yeah. I remember that day.
I don't own a pliers. Can I have one, please? Or he'll be like, I'm going to bring you a Dremel. And I'm like, that's probably not a good idea.
I'm dead.
Have we met?
Right. Good
Power tools and me.
See, that, yeah. And I've heard that, or I realized that a lot in a lot of the guys' responses is like, yeah, I worked on houses, or I did construction or whatever. So, my cheese dad, Mr. Overlord PCHD Brad Harvey, said, the reason I got into this thing of ours is pretty simple. I needed the money. I was working at a dental lab making diddly squat. My infant daughter was needing food, diapers, and shit to survive. My bride and her mom were carrying us. I was getting pretty disgusted with myself and the reality that I was contributing nothing to the cause, trying to follow my dream. So there was no way I was going to leave it entirely to my bride, who was getting pretty burnt out worrying about how we were going to make the next mortgage payment and get food. My brother-in-law called me to tell me his brother, who was a service manager for the Big Green Tea, was looking for techs and that they would train from the ground up and they needed people yesterday. I applied and was given a job offer. I took it to provide for my family. That was over 30 years ago. Over
Dang.
over time, I fell head over heels in love with the work that with this thing of ours has provided me and my family with a good life. Um, and then he said, I do what I need to do, then I do what I want to do. I love that. That was cute.
I love that.
I know, right?
That's a great one. And speaking of Brad, your cheese
Oh,
dad had a loss in the family.
he did. So, as Cheese daughter, I think
It's only right.
yes, and they're on hiatus, so they can't even do. There was a beautiful ceremony on PCHD, but so y'all should check that out. But my dad, Brad Harvey, had a pet cockroach, and his poor little pet cockroach passed away after 3 years, and she was really big on his in his ritual for Tales for the Crawl Space. So I call her the master cheese roach. So we did get an entry. So we hired this amazing pastor to give a memorial speech. So if everybody, I bid you adieu here.
This message is for Harmeyer the roach, the mighty warrior who has entered the eternal vigil of the crusade of contempt. For our fortress walls are writ with the names of our fallen heroes, their sagas told, so that those who trod forth can carry on their mighty deeds. In his footprints, worlds have burned. And so it is time that he is carried aloft on the wings of the Valkyrie, interred into the halls of Valhalla, to wait for Ragnarok. We wish him Godspeed, and many hearts on earth are broken, but we know he carries on the crusade forever. May the wind always fill your sails, and may the sun always shine at your back. Go forth, Harmeyer, mighty warrior of the crusade.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
Gorgeous. Made me emotional,
I
actually.
know, right? Like, dang. Pastor Russell.
What a
Crusader.
good cockroach she was.
Yes. So, in loving
And that
memory.
was a fantastic send-off.
Yes, for Sir Brad. So, yes, good times. Let's see here. I have another guy story, if we may. Real quick, this one I wrote this story based off of voice messages from a friend of mine. So when I moved to this area, I ended up going back with a pest control company that I started with, but up here. And I didn't really want to, but it kept me in the industry. So I had an obsession with checking out all the local guys in my area. So I would look at their Facebooks, I would read their reviews, and
I have that obsession too.
Right. This went on for like 6 months, where
I had the local guys. I mean,
oh, I mean pest control, Jerusha.
I don't discriminate.
I don't.
I'm just checking out all the guys.
That's great.
Sorry, continue.
But I had one favorite, and it was Pest Control Excellence, and he's based out of a neighboring town, and so happened that he was on PCHD, so we ended up becoming friends. So I thought that was really cool. His nickname for me is my local pest control hero. So
cute.
He gave me his story. So he grew up on a family farm. So he did a lot of home pest control with his family, and a background in construction. Same deal with all that. And then he was in the military for a long time, and he actually did pest control with the military as well. He ended up deciding that he wanted to own his own company. So at first he tried getting hired places to get off the ground, but with his licensure, no one would hire him. He was too qualified. So he went in all in and started his own. 5 years strong, even with 4 major ankle surgeries and a major move, he was resilient and rose above. A quote from our chat earlier, he said, "I don't know the definition of quit or give up. One of my military buddies jokes all the time saying, I could be just a head and a torso and I would still be trying to go to work and fight." So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a really good story.
Yes. So, do you have a bless your heart?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm ready to bless some hearts.
Let's bless some hearts. So I have 2 kind of similar, and so it's just kind of a broader topic that I think I saw somebody post about in PCHD also. So I think that we can all relate. I had one issue where I was waiting in line at a bank just to check in to do their service, and a lady had stopped me in the parking lot. And then we walked in together and waited in line together, and she was asking me questions about her home. And I had told her, like, I don't do residential, so I don't know everything that a guy that specializes in that would do for you, but here's the basics. She had a mouse issue. And so she's asking me what we would do for the mouse issue and how we would solve it. And so I'm telling her, well, we would figure out how they're getting into the house. We would seal that. We would trap the ones that are already in the house, get rid of them. And she's asking my advice, but every step of the way she's arguing and basically telling me that what I'm saying isn't quite right. And so eventually she gets to the point where she's like, I'm like, yeah, if she's saying that the mice are in the walls. And so I'm like, well, they have to come out for food. There's probably no food in the walls. And so we would trap them when they come out. We'd probably put traps in the pantry, behind the refrigerator, underneath the sink, behind the water heater, behind the washer and dryer, like places where we know that they would be running. And at some point they have to come out of the walls. They can't just live in your walls forever. And she's like, no, I just want you to like cut a hole in the wall and spray something down in there to kill them. And I was like, yeah, that's just not how it works. Like if we killed them in your walls, you're going to end up with you're going to end up with flies. You're going to get moths. I don't get flies. Well, not currently, because you don't have a bunch of dead rodents inside of your walls. But if you kill a bunch of rodents in the walls of your home, I guarantee you're going to have flies. No, we don't get flies where we live. Okay, I don't know what to tell you then. Like just telling me how to do my job, but then wanting my advice, but then telling me that my advice is wrong.
Yep, I hate that.
So then I went to a business, and it's a medical place. And they do surgery there, and they do, I don't want to say like exactly what they do because it'll give it away, but they do work on medical implements for people right there. And so in the back room, they're actually like sanding down and filing stuff that is going to later go into a patient's body. So obviously I have to be very careful what I'm doing pest control wise in that area. And every single time I'm there, they act like they are just absolutely infested with everything you could possibly be infested with. And there's nothing back there. And so I tell them, like, I can spray certain areas and I can put glue boards in certain areas, but I can't put glue boards everywhere because you're filing stuff and there's dust and there's debris. And so the last time that I was there, a lady stopped me and was like, well, the old technician used to put glue boards right there and it worked better. And I said, it worked better than what? Well, whatever it is that you're doing. And I was like, ma'am, I'll put a glue board here for you, but when I come back, it's not going to be covered in bugs. It's going to be covered in dust and dirt and debris making it useless
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
And so I did. I went back, and the glue board was covered in dust and dirt and debris, and it wasn't sticky, so no bugs were on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I killed the bugs with chemical, so there was no bugs there to begin with. So just as a whole, to people who ask for our advice and then shoot it down and then want to tell us how to do our jobs, or any service professional, if you call a plumber, just take his advice and let him do his job. If you call a pest control person, you're calling a professional for a reason. It's because you don't know how to do my job and I do.
Right.
So let me do my job.
Right.
And bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
Well, bless your heart. Cheap little fucker.
Exactly. Yes.
Fuckers.
Little fuckers, yeah. I hate that. I hate that so much. Especially the once your advice on what your course of action is and then tells you you're wrong. It's, oh,
Yes.
God.
Yeah. No, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to do this. Well, then fucking do it yourself.
Yeah.
Don't call me.
Exactly.
The professional, the licensed professional.
Exactly. Yep.
Google it. Figure it out on your own then.
Right. Absolutely. Oh man. I do have one more guy story real quick, because it kind of ties into last week's episode. So Brian Leone, my buddy, was the one who did the voice clip for us for the pest testosterone last week.
And did such a good job.
He did a great job. That was hilarious. But we talk maybe once every couple months. He was my very first cheese bag friend. Well,
Aww.
I thought it was weird that, like, after the episode, I hadn't heard from him. You know, even though we only talk once every couple months. But I figured he'd be like, how'd the show go? You know, like, give me a link or whatever. But this is his story, and then I'll tell you afterwards why I didn't hear from him.
Why you didn't hear. Okay.
So he said, I was a businessman. I was sold counterfeit product, and it put me out of business. I became a realtor for a long time. Nothing was consistent about money, and I was too many stomach pains from not making the bills. So I prayed hard, and I got an interview in pest control. Turns out I'm a good problem solver. So after they trained me and I got licensed, they sent me up to my first stop by myself. The boss knew exactly what he was sending me up to, but didn't tell me. A very problematic customer. I knocked on the door, no answer, exterior service only. I went back to my truck and started getting everything out to service, and I hear, hey, you, and I turn around and there's a gun pointed in my face. That was almost my last day in pest control. Needless to say, I obviously got out of there. However, next day, so second day on the job, I was in a crawl space and two huge snakes slithered by. Mind you, I have no experience with snakes, and I was a big puss. I almost quit on day 1, and I almost quit on day 2. 5 years later, I'm still here. So that's his story. But right after our episode, he was on a 10-foot ladder and fell off of it into a thorny bush.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
So,
oh my God.
Just goes to show when you're a little bitch about pest testosterone, you'll fall off a 10-foot ladder.
That's what I call karma.
So don't be a little bitch.
He's okay though, right?
Yeah.
He's a little bitch, but he's all right, right?
Yes.
We don't want him to die or anything.
No, just teach him a lesson, you know?
Oh my God.
Yeah, nothing
Dude,
broken. So that's
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
But that, as your first and second day, I would have fucking been gone.
Right.
No way.
Gun in your face.
I would have been out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then the snakes. I don't do snakes either. That would have taken me out right then and there. Especially in a crawl space. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, and he's in a southern state, so I'm sure they were
nice. Snakes that can kill you.
I was going to say, they're probably scary ones. Like,
yeah,
where I live, snakes aren't very scary.
They are here. I've caught one rattlesnake once, but it was a baby, and those are even more dangerous because they can't control how much venom they put out.
Yeah.
And so they'll bite you and just put every fucking drop of venom they've got in you. Luckily, I got it on a glue board.
That's good.
Trying to go into an office. So thank God we caught it. But
Right.
yeah, especially if you live somewhere where snakes can kill you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's horrifying.
Yes. About our next episode.
Yes. We're going to talk about training and trainees.
Yes.
Have you trained anybody in?
Yes. With my first company, I trained quite a few technicians. But that was all residential. Since doing commercial, no, I have not done any training. So, yeah.
I was a trainer at my second company, and then at my third, I was the lead trainer. So
that's awesome.
I've done a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And trainees are fun.
Yeah, I've got some stories. This is going to be good.
I think I'm excited to hear the stories that people send us. I think it's going to be an interesting episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Just thinking of my own experiences, it's going to be a good one.
Yes. And also, our buddy, Sean Mueller of Pest Perspectives, gave us a shout out, which was super cool. Sean, thank you so much.
The coolest.
Yes.
He's in the UK, yeah?
Yes.
So an international shout out at that.
Right. So cool. Jack and Brad are really good friends with Sean, and they had him on Tales from the Crawl Space. So this big old family we got going on here is beautiful. I love it.
It's growing.
Yes. So definitely go check them out and stay tuned for next week's and give us a story if you got a good one. So
all your stories about the dumb shit that trainees do, or even your own training, fun stories about when you first learned how to do the business. We want to hear it all. I think that's going to be a super fun episode.
Yeah, well, definitely. So
all right. Well, we're done here. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you had fun hearing about our origin stories.
Yes. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.